If you're looking for an all-in-one solution to data acquisition and data display, we think AEM's got a very unique solution that we're going to show you now. So here we are in a 2020 Supra. No, not our car. We're just here testing it at the racetrack, Toronto Motorsports Park. And we've been looking at different ways of collecting data and displaying data in our variety of cars back at the shop. And this really struck us as a very unique approach to both of those challenges. Here we have our AEM CD5 carbon dash. So it's a 5-inch display in this unique formed carbon housing. It's very lightweight. It weighs like something like 331 grams. So if dash weight matters to you, everybody, that's a very light dash. What we like about it, though, is obviously you can hard mount it in your track car and your race car, which we think is how most people tend to use these kinds of displays. But AEM's come up with a really unique idea, and that is to offer an adapter mount that bolts to the back of the display, which you can then use with a ram mount. So we went ahead and bought this ram mount suction cup system off of Amazon with the correct ball size on it for the mount that AEM sells on their website. And we're therefore able to just suction cup it to the windscreen, just like you would with kind of like a typical lap timer system. Pretty unique to suction cup mount an actual digital display, and that might worry some of you in terms of it like falling off or whatever, but we know from experience these ram mounts are extremely strong. They've never failed us, so not worried about that aspect of it. And the beauty of this is now we are able to move this system from car to car. We obviously have a fleet of cars back at our shop, so being able to move this around both as a display and as a data acquisition system is really useful for us. And if you have a few cars of your own, then this may be an approach that you like to take with this system. So I think kudos to AEM for offering this kind of approach to mounting a dash in a car. They've also made it relatively simple to interface with your car. So in a 2008 or newer car like the Supra is, they offer it with an adapter harness which plugs into your OBD2 port, and all your OBD2 data therefore goes to the dash automatically. And the dash will make perfect sense of all the cam data off of any 2008 or newer car. And it's also designed to work perfectly with any CAN data obviously off of AEM Net's own system. So if you have an Infinity ECU or say an EMS2 in your car, this will obviously read that CAM data perfectly as well. And they have a huge list of aftermarket ECUs that this dash also supports. That's sort of a primer on the power of this dash itself. And this is the logger unit. So you can buy this both as a logger or a non-logging dash. And you can also get it with a logger with a GPS unit in it. And ours has the GPS unit in it, which allows it to function as a lap timer. So that GPS we have to mark the start finish line. Just a bit of a process. There's a wire that you have to ground. So it's not the simplest start finish line process, but once you've done it once, it becomes relatively simple. Now, if you want to add like gyro data or yaw data, you can also add AEM's VDM module, so Vehicle Dynamics module, into this through their AEM Net system, which all plugs into the back of the dash here, and that will give you more of that track type data. You can even go further and add AEM's 22-channel CAN bus module if you want to wire it into a pre-2008 unit, or if you want to add more channels to whatever vehicle you're putting it into. So it's an incredibly expandable, incredibly customizable, and very powerful unit. But we're using it in its most basic configuration here. We've just plugged it into the OBD2 port. We've got all that data going on here. We've got our GPS system fired up. We've got our start finish line set. So what do you say we go for a drive around the racetrack here and see what we're seeing on the display? Off we go here onto the front straight at TMP in our 2020 Supra. Not ours, in a borrowed 2020 Supra. I wish it was mine though, because this is a really fun car, which has a ton of technology on board, obviously, including all of that OBD2 data, which is now going to be on display on our dash here. So as you can see, I am on the lap timer screen here. So my lap time is showing down in the bottom left corner here. And that green bar is an indicator of whether I'm ahead of or behind my current fastest lap. So it's showing that I'm way ahead because I just did a really slow like roll around lap a minute ago. But if I was behind on a hot lap, it would be over on this side in the red. So it'll give you green, you're ahead, red, you're behind, in typical like predictive lap timing fashion, as you might see with other lap timing systems. We've obviously got a big tack in the middle there, and we've got some important data points around it, including water temp, oil temp, and you can configure this screen however you want. So this is a very customizable display using AEM's free dash design software. So we've downloaded that software off of AEM's website, and we've just plugged in one of their standard, but I think very attractive looking dash designs for a car like this, where it's just already got everything laid out the way we want. It's got the data where we want it. So if you're looking for a really easy, quick plug and play, set of displays or set of screens on your display, AEM's already got that covered for you. And you can actually go to their forum where guys have designed their own dashes, and you can, of course, completely customize it yourself. And you can set up warning lights or warning screens in this case, which I think is a really important and valuable part of this whole system. Because if you have a problem with your motor and something's getting too hot, then this, rather than like a typical lap timer, this system will default to a warning screen here, and it'll flash at you saying, hey dummy, you got a problem. And until you clear that warning light by pressing the left button here on the display, you're gonna have that flashing in your face saying, you got a problem, you need to pay attention to this, do something about it. So for a guy like me who just tends to go out and rip and not really watch the factory gauges too much, I really like the idea of having a display here that's in my face and will tell me if something's going wrong. If I go through some of the screens here with you, just press on the left button here, and you can see it can take me to a screen where we just have a ton of engine metrics on display. So if you're not that concerned about lap times, but you're, say, out on the track trying to diagnose a problem, or just want to see how everything is working, maybe you're giving your race car a shakedown for the first time, then this is a really useful screen to open up. And again, you can configure it to display whatever you want. We've just kind of gone with the default display here to show you, how much data you can pack onto one screen. They've got 12 or more data points on the screen there. And there is one more screen we can go to here, which is just like your basic street dash. So you could in fact install this in a street car and use these extra LEDs up on the top here as like turn signal lights or fuel level lights. There's a bunch of LEDs along the top which you can set up as a shift light. So you could really configure this dash as a street dash if that's what you're really aiming to do. So again, a very customizable setup. All right, I'm gonna have a little fun here in the Supra, let it rip a little bit, and we'll see what kind of numbers we got coming up with the display here. It's a bit of a cold, damp day here at TMP, so I'm not gonna set the world on fire with lap times, but really I just wanna get some data for you guys that we can show you afterwards on AEM data system. All right, we are back at the shop, which we wouldn't have to do if we brought our laptop to the track with us. Obviously, you guys may want to review your data between sessions at the track, but we thought it's raining there. Let's just come back here and do it in the dry comfort of the shop here, and let us kind of go through it in a little more comfort and style perhaps too. So looking at the data here on AEM data, which is that free software that you can download off their site to analyze the data. I'll just turn it around here and take a closer look at it myself. And as you can see, I've chosen to overlay GPS speed in the top trace and throttle position in the bottom trace. And what I've overlaid are my two best laps. I really only did two semi-hot laps in those cold and greasy conditions at the track. And you can see my best lap time was a 1:23 here on lap 10 and a 1:24 on lap 9. And I can tell you in the dry, this car would be much faster. In any case, the value of having this kind of data available to you for analysis in AEM software is that you can really start to build a fastest theoretical lap by overlaying data from a variety of lap times and really seeing where on your fastest lap you did something better, or even on a non-fastest lap where you might have had a sector or segment that was better than your fastest lap, and you can start to kind of build that premium lap that's really going to allow you to improve your driving and get the most out of your car. It's also a great tool for comparing drivers. So let's say that 1:24 lap was Pete's, since we've already proven he's the slower driver, except in the Miata. And the 1:23 was my lap. We could start to look at where I was faster, where he was slower, or vice versa. And again, we can learn from each other as drivers. And of course, with all that OBD2 data, we can look at things like throttle position, which is actually a really good thing to look at for what the driver's doing. But I could also opt to load in there oil temperature, coolant temperature, wheel speeds, all kinds of stuff that'll tell us about what the car is doing, and that could help us diagnose problems, or that could help us identify, like, oh, this car is running hot. I didn't realize that was running hot until I've reviewed the data logs afterwards. So this data has a lot of power to it, and it really comes down to the end user,
the software operator of making the most of the available software. But it's a really powerful program. It's really as customizable, just like the rest of the setup is, as you would possibly want it to be. It does take a little bit of time to familiarize with it, so expect there to be a bit of a learning curve the first time you start loading your data into it. You're gonna have to spend some time to figure out how to configure it all, lay it all out, set up a track map and do all that stuff. So have some patience with it, but the payoff is a ton of data and a lot of potential to learn about your car and about yourself as a driver. So just to give you guys a quick idea of how you can overlay data and learn some things about your driving or your car or your co-driver, I'm going to zoom in on a section here where I've overlaid my fastest 2 laps in the car. The white trace on the top section here is my speed at GPS, and the orange line is my speed on the slower lap, which was 1.3 seconds slower, so fairly big gap there. And the bottom trace here is throttle position. So you can see along the top of this trace, I'm at full throttle, and down at the bottom, I'm at no throttle, which is obviously in the braking zones. And over on the right here, by the way, you can see all the channels we have to choose from. So we could choose to do overlays with some of this other stuff, but I'm just going to keep it simple for now and show you speed versus throttle position. And interestingly, looking at the differences between the line, you can see down here in the middle of turn 1 here, there's a fairly big gap in speed between those 2 laps. So I'm going to zoom in on that section and have a look at what I was doing with the throttle to give you guys a bit of an idea of how you can use this kind of data to analyze your driving. Or like I said, if Pete also drove the car, we could see what he was doing differently in that section of the track, and we could learn from each other just based on, okay, who's carrying more speed and what's he doing with the throttle? Okay, let me go out and try to replicate that if Pete was doing it better, which I'm pretty sure he would have been. So as you can see at the bottom of the speed trough here, that's when I've stopped braking and I've transitioned back on throttle and the line's starting to climb again. And you can see that gap between the 2 speed lines is happening, and I'm managing that speed with my throttle position. So you can see on the faster lap, I'm able to stay at full throttle more than I was on the slower lap. So this orange trace, I'm more consistently off throttle or at like half throttle, trying to prevent the car from sliding too much. If we had steering angle data, which unfortunately we don't with the Supra, but with many other cars you would get that through the OBD2, like on our FRS, we'd be able to say, okay, why is he off throttle here? Oh, look, he's got a bunch of counter steer in it. So you could start to build a bigger picture of what was going on in the corner there. And at the end of that slide, you can see I really got off the throttle a lot on that slower lap. So that's just a quick way to zoom in on the data, and we could do that in other corners. And if we had other kinds of data that we got off, say, an AEMs VDM system, where we'd have slip angle, yaw angle, acceleration, and braking G-forces, you could really start to break things down and learn a lot about what you're doing as a driver. All right, I've jumped over to I've jumped over to AEM design now. And as you can see, I am on the main screen here that shows me the dash design. And it's all, as you can see, from like the default colors over here and the way the bars work. You've got all kinds of options here for everything from text size, text color, to location of all of these readouts. You can move it all around, customize it all as much as you want. So you could literally design your own dash from scratch if you want to, or like us, upload one of their pre-existing ones. So if we jump over to the alarms page here, you can see that you can set alarms for pretty much any data you're recording via the CAN system, whether that's through the OBD2 port or through an aftermarket ECU system or a CAN channel system that you put in the car. You can set all your warnings up in here with highs and lows and all that kind of good stuff. Well, there you have it, guys. That is our quick and dirty overview of the AEM CD5 logging and GPS equipped digital dash with this optional RAM mount that we bought on Amazon. And overall, I think it's a really powerful unit. It's obviously not going to be for everyone. If you're looking for a slap it in your car, get some basic lap time data in it and take it home with you, then this isn't for you. But if you're more of a serious racer and you really want to dive deep on the data and have all of that data on display in the dash in your car in a really customizable and configurable way, then I think this is a pretty outstanding way to go. And for $1,500, you get a lot of power with this unit. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. We hope you found this informative, and we will come back at you soon with some more tech nerdy stuff like this in the very near future.